Kia ora, everybody. Friday afternoon, 12:30. That means we're live here on YouTube, Facebook, and LinkedIn for Frogs on Friday, where we talk about the employment and jobs market in New Zealand. Hi there, my name's Mark Smith. I'm Group Managing Director of Frog Recruitment in New Zealand and People to People in Australia. It's a jam-packed broadcast for you today. There's a lot going on. But before we jump into it, I just wanted to do, I love this idea. I think it's great. It's called Jab a Seat from Air New Zealand. I don't know if you saw this, but this is picked this up from Twitter here, where Air New Zealand is transforming a 787 aircraft into a special vaccination clinic to encourage Aucklanders to get vaccinated this Super Saturday. So it's bound for destination vaccination. Aucklanders will be able to board the Jab a Seat flight, receive their vaccination, and enjoy Air New Zealand's world-renowned customer service and hospitality. In addition to a behind-the-scenes glimpse of the aircraft hangar, visitors will tour business premier, enjoy free in-flight snacks, and receive a special boarding pass to commemorate the occasion. So if you haven't already done it, I love that. See how it says gate 90% too? That's so cool. Anyway, so if you haven't already done it, you haven't got your vaccination, Jab a Seat. That's the way to do it if you're in Auckland this weekend. So we're not here to talk about that, though. We're here to talk about the employment and jobs market in New Zealand. And what we'll do today is we'll cover off our regular numbers section, where we've got some stats from New Zealand and the US today. Then we'll be crossing to Auckland, where we'll be chatting to Shannon Barlow, where she's going to tell us the upside to COVID. She's also got a couple of jobs to talk to us about. And then finally, we'll be checking out our results of the Twitter poll, which is, would you go back to the office if masks weren't mandated? Anyway, we'll see what the Twitterverse said about that at the end of the broadcast. So let's jump into it then. Let's start with our regular numbers section. So the numbers this week, thanks also to Sharon Barlow from ANZ. She tweeted this number out, and if you haven't followed her, I definitely jump onto that. So from ANZ Research, what we're looking at here is activity and business confidence. So there's basically the percentage expecting improvements minus the percentage expecting deterioration. So, and the two around the amount of activity, the outlook for activity, and also the confidence. So I think the most encouraging thing about this is that the most recent lockdown has not had a profound impact on people's expectations of activity, so that they see that the activity outlook is still positive, despite the most recent outlook. Business confidence, you can see that number has dropped because of the most recent lockdowns, but the actual activity expectations remain relatively high in a historical context. So you can see we're still higher than the entire period from 2017 through to the pandemic from an activity perspective. So that's good news. Business confidence is still good as well when you look at it in historical context. So overall, despite the lockdowns and the pain that's given us, it's still looking good in New Zealand, particularly from this research anyway, from ANZ. Let's have a look at some stats from Stats New Zealand, which basically is the payroll data, which they compile this once every couple of weeks. And I do look at this on a regular basis, and I encourage other people to do it. It's great free service from Stats NZ. And this is the total number of paid jobs. And why I wanted to show this one again is that, well, where's the lockdown? Where's the most recent lockdown? Where's the drop in the number of paid jobs from the most recent lockdowns? Well, it's not there. Good news. I mean, so this data is, I think, up until last updated on the 14th of October. So it's yesterday. So it's not that the data is a little bit old and you're thinking, oh, well, it hasn't come through yet. It is definitely holding up during this lockdown period, and I would suspect in anticipation of the recovery. And what's the recovery going to look like? And that's I thought I'd use some numbers from the US as a way to guide us here. I mean, in the old days, it used to be, the US catches cold and we get pneumonia, but that's not exactly the case anymore. But it's still a good indicator. And what we're looking at here, and this was a profound graph, I thought. This is the number of listed vacancies. And in the US, they call them openings. So this is the openings rate. And the blue line, that's in orange, the blue line is the quits private. So people in private enterprise quitting their job. So the number of new jobs and the number of people changing jobs. And they being the US, has entered their recovery phase probably 2 or 3 months ago when things started to open up. And look at the increase in the number of openings, but correspondingly, and you would have seen some hype, I suppose you would call it, around the Great Resignation more recently, that's coming up in, they believe, in the first quarter of 2022. But that quits number is the highest that it's been in 20 years. You've got more people in the US quitting their job now than the previous 20 years, but you've also got a historically high number of openings that are listed there. So if that's our future, if that's our recovery, then there's a lot of new opportunities coming down the pipeline in New Zealand, and there's going to be a lot of movement of staff in the next 6 to 12 as well. Anyway, so very interesting numbers from the US. Let's see if it plays out in New Zealand. Let's find out also what's going to happen in Auckland. We're going to cross now to Shannon Barlow. She'll give us a market update and also tell us what's the upside of these lockdowns in COVID. Whilst we get there and we get that set up, we've got a video from Shannon from a couple of months ago, but it's a nice reminder that you can get a free copy of the P2P Post, which is our group document, which outlines salaries and market trends for 2021. It's free, it's available. We'll pop the link in the comments where you can actually request a copy of this. By the way, we can see all of your comments in Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube. So if you have any of them, just pop them in there, and we'll get back to that. But let's take a look at this video, and then we'll have a quick chat to Shannon.
Kia ora. I'm thrilled to have the 2021 publication of the P2P Post, our comprehensive market report, in my hands and ready to share. This year's edition is jam-packed with workplace analysis and insights, and features external experts discussing the challenges and lessons learned through the COVID-19 crisis. The Frog team is excited to come out and present the P2P Post and to hear how your experience relates to the trends that we're seeing in the market. Contact me today to receive your copy and join in the discussion.
Rightio, Shannon Barlow, you haven't changed a bit. Like that was a couple of months ago, but you're looking almost exactly the same. Maybe a different location, but you look like you haven't changed a bit.
Well, I was worried that I'd be wearing the same outfit. I tend to keep them on tight rotation, but yeah, watching that made me a bit nostalgic for being back in the office. So hopefully, fingers crossed, we can get back there soon. But you were talking about the market, and from those figures earlier, it is astounding and so positive that the effect on of the lockdowns, we haven't seen as great a decrease or a negative effect on our job numbers, and that push forward from businesses, which is really great to see there. So I think more so at the start of the lockdown, we did see some hesitations, and I think businesses, although they had that strong business confidence and were looking to push forward and to continue to grow, there was a little bit of, okay, we've gone into lockdown, let's just put things on hold. I'd rather see people in person, so we'll just wait to see what happens. And then, of course, once it got extended, it was really great to see businesses going, look, we can't afford to sit and wait and put things on hold. So let's push ahead. We'll go virtual. We can still, we have this experience now to be able to onboard and recruit virtually. So let's keep things moving. So, and we've seen that as well. I've actually been lucky enough to be on leave for the last 10 days or so. So it's been great to see the new roles scrolling down the bottom of the screen there. And I know from my meetings this week with my team, it felt like all the jobs were new. So all the ones that we were working on before I left, they've been filled. That's great. And there's plenty of new work coming through. So yeah, really, really active time, and great to see those vacancies still coming through strongly.
Yeah, it is really good. It's such really good news. And it's just, it's the anticipation, I think, that the recovery is on its way, that we haven't seen any sort of correction in the number of people that are out there getting paid and in work right now. So how do you reckon this labour shortage then will play out in job seekers' favour then over the next little while?
Yeah, so it's really interesting and good to see, there are some positive things that come about from COVID and this situation we find ourselves in. So although the closed borders and the resulting labour shortage, of course, are causing a major headache for employers, on the other hand, it has levelled out the playing field a bit in terms of the recruitment process for job seekers and put them in a much stronger position when looking for a new role. But before I get too far into things, I've got to remember this. I just have to stop for a second and give a shout out to my mum, just in case she's watching. She does like to tune into the Facebook Live. And happy birthday, Mum. So hope you're having a great day.
Happy birthday. Wow. I forgot about that. I know I saw it in my notes beforehand and I've missed it completely. So well done, Shannon.
Well, I'll get in more trouble if I miss it rather than you.
That's true. Excellent. So, yes. Now, what other advice do you have about handling this situation then?
Yeah. So, and as we're saying, even though we're going through lockdown, we're continuing to see those high number of vacancies and a strong demand for quality candidates. And what it means is that typically the candidates who we're speaking to, it's usual for them to have 2 or 3 offers on the table, which is a little bit of might be a new situation for them to be in. So I guess my first tip is to make the most of the market conditions and really be proactive in exploring your opportunities. So the first thing I'd say there is to, I guess, put yourself in the driver's seat of your career search and really take that time to step back and to figure out what's important to you. So, things like, and from the P2P post, we've found that yes, salary is important, but it's not the only driver, and it's going to be different for each individual. So really take that time to think, okay, what would make me choose one role over another? If I'm looking at this long term, what kind of people do I want to be around? What kind of company or business would I feel positive about representing and being a part of? So take that time to figure out what is important and then go after that. So, if you're considering an opportunity, really do your research and don't be afraid to ask some direct questions throughout the interview process. So, you might, let's say that sustainability might be important to you and you see from their website, it looks like they're eco-friendly, but maybe you ask the question throughout the interview, how does that play out day to day? What kind of things are people consistently doing within the office to support that?
Well, yeah, it's so important, isn't it? You got 2 45-minute face-to-face virtual meetings where you get an opportunity to ask questions about an opportunity or a role that you could be in for the next 3, 5, 10 years. So it's such a critical time. Don't be afraid. Be selfish. Ask the questions about what's important to you. The other thing, and I'd be interested to hear putting you on the spot here a little bit, Shannon, but I find that sometimes there's cliches around what's important. People feel that, oh, it's just all about the money, or it's all about the title, or it's all that they feel that they must do this when they're changing jobs, or and I think there's been a shift recently. I'd like to think a positive one, where people are being concerned more about the holistic opportunity, that it's not just about the title, not just about the responsibilities and the money, but it's more about, well, the purpose of the organization and who am I joining and why are they doing what they're actually doing, which has an effect, I think, on employers, where they have to really get that value proposition broader and holistic, rather than just throwing money at the market, for example.
Exactly. And the other thing that we're finding that obviously didn't come up pre-COVID is those direct questions around their response to handling the pandemic and how they looked after their people as well. So again, it is that holistic approach, and looking at, I want to make sure that yes, the job's right, it's something engaging, but the culture really is key for the organisation they're going into, and want to make sure that, I'm going with one of the good guys.
Yeah, so there is some upside out of this COVID nonsense, isn't there? Really, for candidates, etc. So before we leave that topic, is there anything else you'd like to say before we move on? And I know that there's a job opportunities come in just before we went live that we wanted to quickly mention. Is there anything else you wanted to mention on the topic of COVID?
Yeah, I think it's just not really a warning, but it's really important that you, with this kind of shift in the balance of power between the employer and the job seeker, that you don't burn any bridges while deciding on the best option. So we have heard a few horror stories of candidates not doing the right thing. So I think it's really important to be transparent. So, people are aware of the situation, and as I said, it's not uncommon to have 2, 3, 4 different offers that you're considering at one time. So just be upfront and let them know that you are considering other opportunities, and don't commit to anything if you can't follow through with that. And again, now that you've figured out what's important to you, it's okay to share that with the potential employer as well, and be upfront, and maybe together you can work out whether or not this is going to be the right fit going forward.
Yeah, exactly. Rightio. So conscious of time, so we've got a couple of minutes, but we do have an opportunity or a job that you'd like to talk about.
Yes, I thought this one was really interesting once I came back, not to the office, but came back to the virtual office this week, and heard that we have a number of roles with an employer. And it really is a chance to, again, thinking about what's important to you. So these might be more of an opportunity if you're kind of looking to escape the lockdowns in Tamaki Makaurau. So we have a Australasian company. It has multiple opportunities, specifically within their HR teams, ranging from BP to senior business partner. But these can be based in the Coromandel or in Dunedin, so it might be a bit of a sea change. That's more Coromandel rather than Dunedin, but you get the idea. So it might be a chance to, I know COVID has been a chance for a lot of people to take stock and think, right, well, is this where I want to be? So some excellent benefits, and as well as potential support with the move for these roles.
So if you are in human resources and looking for a change, then you need to get in touch with us with these multiple opportunities. How would they do that? Is there I think, Jacob, do you have a link to an opportunity, or we're a bit wild?
He might not have that yet, but I know that it's Adrian Gordon is running the vacancies, so you can get in touch with her.
Okay, great. All right. Well, then somebody wants to have a quick chat to you about the market and what's going on as well. What's the best number to get in touch with you, Shannon?
So it's 098696259.
Okay, there we go. It's up on the screen there, or via email, shannon@frogrecruitment.co.nz. But Shannon is all over social. If you can't find Shannon on social, then you're in trouble. So, well, thanks very much for joining us again today, Shannon. Hopefully, we'll see you again in a couple of weeks' time. Right, so the last thing we're going to do now is we're going to have a quick look at last week's Twitter poll. So this was an interesting one. This was like, would you go back to the office, or how would you feel about returning to the office if masks aren't mandatory? So what do Kiwis think here? Oh, about 40% said, nah, not a problem. Don't have a problem with that. But 46%, 47%, so nearly half of all Kiwis said, I don't want to, which is very interesting. And for employers, it will be, okay, well, how do I manage this return to the office? Is returning to the office necessary? There's a whole bunch of questions around, well, to get people back and management of culture, etc. There's a bunch of information in the last P2P post on this as well. So make sure you grab a copy of that. So what about next week? Let's have a look at next week's poll. Is returning to an ex-employer a good career move? You know, ex-boyfriend, ex-girlfriend, going back, is that the right thing? Is it the same when you're actually looking for a new career? Or looking for a career move, I should say. So yes, I think that's a good, definitely it can work, or no, move on, or it depends, you know, a bit like a relationship, I reckon, on that one. Let's see what the Twitterverse says 6 days before we get those results. Jump onto @Frog Recruitment on Twitter. Please vote. We normally get, you know, just about 500 or so people voting each week. So it's really interesting to see how those come out. Thanks very much for joining us on Frogs on Friday. We'll see you all again next week, 12:30 on YouTube, Facebook, and LinkedIn. We'll see you then.